actually being the queen now. Okay, we're up to that point. Yeah. Okay, what is the longest serving monarchy in the world?
You told us last week.
Then what is it?
France?
72 years.
Nope.
Well, he said monarchy, he didn't say.
Not monarch. Not monarch. Monarchy. Oh, this was tricky. Longest serving monarchy in the world.
Oh,
China?
China? Nope. They don't have a monarch yet.
Thailand?
Nope, they don't have a monarch right now.
Elizabeth?
Anybody? You're going to be surprised. Are you ready?
Okay.
The papacy.
Oh, that makes sense.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
Because it's its own country.
Catholic Church.
Yep.
Vatican.
Because they're, and you know, the Vatican's a country.
Yeah.
So it's the longest serving monarchy. Now the question becomes, sweetie, what's the second longest in the world? Nope. Did you say France? Yep, they don't have a monarch now. They were president. England.
Okay.
What we've been looking at, yeah. And yeah, they've had a monarchy since way early in the Middle Ages. Not too many centuries away from the Pope. So, and that is Elizabeth's, that is the official symbol for Elizabeth. E-R, R meaning Regina, Queen, the second. And somebody asked, you know, what does she sign when she's queen? And actually, I look at her signing some papers. And she will sign Elizabeth R. She doesn't sign Windsor. She signs Elizabeth R. Queen Elizabeth for all of her papers. Elizabeth is an example of everything that is best about Britain. Understated, good-hearted, and horsey. And I thought that was such a funny quote when I found that. However, this is really, I think, a really good one. The strength of her personality is that she keeps it hidden. She has pursued a career of not being interesting. Now, of course, I think she is interesting, and I think most of us do. But she doesn't have any characteristics that really make her interesting other than she is the queen. And she's very careful about this. She propagates this whole idea. The queen has been served by 14 prime ministers. Remember, she's serving 70 years. So there's been 14 prime ministers, 7 archbishops of Canterbury, lived through the reign of 7 popes, and she has met 12 of our past 13 presidents. So the question is, which president hasn't she met?
Bush? Is it Bush?
Who?
Bush?
Bush?
Trump?
Nope. She met Bush.
Trump.
Who?
JFK?
Biden? She actually has met Biden already. And in such a short term, she's already met Biden. Biden has been there.
JFK?
Who?
JFK?
No, in fact, that was one of her favorite presidents.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Met Clinton, met Nixon. You're going through about everybody. I think it's a shock who she didn't meet. Ready?
LBJ. Ah,
Oh,
Johnson.
She didn't meet Johnson.
LBJ.
Yeah.
Didn't mean LBJ.
She didn't meet LBJ. She met everyone. First one she actually met was Truman, but he wasn't, or he was president, but she wasn't queen yet. So she actually did meet him.
Why did LBJ not meet her?
Pardon?
Why did LBJ not meet her?
Two reasons. You probably can come up with one. Okay, well, the one reason was Kennedy had died, and he was trying to establish the Great Society at the time. And so that was the first thing. And the other thing, what brought him down? The Vietnam War.
Oh.
Vietnam War, and it was so controversial in Britain, that she couldn't meet with them. That's why they didn't meet. Great questions. Keep it up, people. Elizabeth has visited 116 countries during 260 official overseas visits. Most traveled monarch ever. She sat for 130 official portraits. That one marked her 90th birthday 5 years ago. I like that one. I think that's
And she was standing up.
yeah. I really like that. The artist comment that the Queen doesn't like having her portrait painted. And they say, you can't say, ma'am, you will please bloody well sit still. She's very fidgety. But if you just sit there that long, you'll get a portrait painted hours and hours and hours. And she just doesn't like it. The most controversial portrait, an official portrait, was by Justin Mortimer. And he only had 2 sessions with her, 2 hours each. He did some quick sketches, and he took some Polaroids. Now, I want to see, what do you think of this portrait? By the way, she never, ever comments on her portraits. So we don't know what she thinks about it. Ready?
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Not good, not good.
Isn't that terrible?
Oh, that's awful.
And that's one of the official portraits.
Yeah.
Oh,
Of course, she has her photograph taken all the time, and she's called One Take Windsor among the family because she can sit still long enough, smiles, knows when to smile, and gets that picture taken very quickly. Okay, what do you think of this portrait?
Not
No,
much.
not much.
Not much? Why?
She's not smiling.
Not smiling. Oh, yeah.
Well, she sort of is.
Looks like her eyes closed.
Pardon?
Look like her eyes are closed.
Yeah. And they're sort of squinty in it. Yeah.
Doesn't even look like her.
Doesn't like it.
And she's getting makeup and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. They have these extra people putting makeup on her.
That's
Now.
right. It's not-
Okay, you ready for the big surprise?
Yeah.
That's not her.
It's actually Madame Tussauds. That's the wax image of Madame Tussauds.
Makes sense.
And
Is it Tussauds or Tussauds?
they had, the first time was when she was 2 years old, they had one of the wax images. That's the latest, that's the one that they have just done 23 times. They've done her image. So it's a little bit better than you think it is when you know what it actually is. She's entitled to what's called the royal prerogative. And these are powers and rights that only the sovereign possesses. And there aren't a whole lot of them, but there are some. And I think this is the funniest one that I copied down. She's the only person in Britain that doesn't have to have a driver's license.
Wow.
She's well known.
And do you remember from Wednesday when she learned to drive?
Yeah, very young.
In World War II.
World War II, yeah, when she was in the service. And she learned to drive. She loves it. She hasn't driven now in a couple of years, but she loves to drive. And she is, well, I have to get, the other royal prerogative is, not only doesn't she have to have a driver's license, but she can go as fast or as slow as she wants to.
Yeah.
No speed limits, one way or the other for her.
So how does she drive, fast or slow?
If she's on Balmoral land, specifically up in Scotland, Balmoral, she tends to drive fairly fast.
Great.
Yeah, she tends to drive fast there. Now, when she's at Windsor, Sandringham, one of the other ones, she tends to drive more cautiously. But Balmoral is her favorite place, and it's so isolated that she tends to drive faster up there. She has, because of that, she's gotten into some problems on Balmoral. Because of driving so fast, she's got caught in mud and the like a lot of times. Yeah.
Is her cars marked some way that they know that that's the Queen?
Oh, wait, say that again.
Like a license plate or something?
Oh, yeah.
Flags.
Yeah, there's a special thing that attaches to the car,
Okay.
and they know it's the queen. When she's when she's on her own land, and I don't know that she has ever driven off her own land, but there are attachments to the car, yes. See, this is why I love this group. You always ask the best questions. And she has a car collection worth $13 million.
Oh,
Yeah, she has a lot of cars, and they are hers, by the way. She owns those.
Why?
The queen and her animals. Most famous, of course, are her the corgis, right? And she began her love affair with the corgis when she was 7 years old. She actually saw some people were visiting, and they had brought their corgis with them, and she fell in love with them, and that's when she began to get corgis. Her first corgi was named Dookie, short for the Duke of York. Why Duke of York?
Prince Philip?
No, Prince Philip was Duke of Edinburgh. Dookie, Duke of York. That's her father.
yeah.
Her father was the Duke of York prior to being king. And so she named the dog after her father. When she was 18, her parents gave her one named Susan. And that's Susan, by the way. It is Susan. And I think this is funny. She took it on her honeymoon. Now, I don't think that was the best choice. She thought it was. And all of the corgis that she has had since, except the two that she has right now, they were gifts. But all the corgis that she's had since, all were related to Susan. They had the bloodline of Susan.
Oh, wow.
And so that was really important. Her last corgi that died, or that was from Susan's bloodline, died a couple of years ago, and she said she would never again have any animals. And for Christmas a year ago, her grandchildren gave her corgis. But they were not Susan's bloodline. And when Susan died, they actually buried her at Sandringham. Princess Michael of Kent told in an interview that she'd like to shoot the corgis. And she just, and honestly, Elizabeth just lets the corgis run wild. When the corgis are with her, they just run all over. And I like now, Teresa, this is a funny line. Michael Kent, Princess Michael Kent says she'd like to shoot the corgis. And the Queen said, well, they're better behaved than she is. So the Queen does have a good sense of humor. For her fourth birthday, her grandfather, who would have been George V, gave her her first pony. That's Peggy. That is Peggy. And since then, she loves horses. She was an excellent rider. And she's maintained a stable as of the present of 24 horses. And she's won $9 million in racing. Like she needs it.
Oh, yeah.
But over the past 30 years, she's had that. And her racing colors, that's her racing colors, purple with gold braid, scarlet sleeves, a black velvet cap with gold fringe, and they are the same as Edward VII. He had his racing horses. Those were his colors. And she's the first royal reigning monarch to have won the Royal Ascot. She goes every year to the Ascot, and she actually won. Her horse won in 2013. I think this is funny. This goes back from 1324. Imagine, how long ago that was. She owns all pairs of swans, sturgeon, whales, porpoises, and dolphins that are in British water. I don't know why, don't ask. That's one thing I can.
Why?
but that's just the law, that she has control of all of the swans. And sturgeons, whales, porpoises, and dolphins are in. And really, this swan thing is really a big to-do. You cannot, quote, kill a swan in England. You've got to be very cautious. And every year, there's one day a year they go out and they count all the swans.
Well,
So they make sure that they have the right number. She's personally worth $520 million.
Wow.
Now, remember, that's not how much that on the state lands or the state things. This is her own personal wealth. Her family passes on a lot of things. We're going to see all these. And so that's how really wealthy she is. She owns a lot of estates that are farm estates. And they have to pay rent on. She has access to the Crown estates, and they're worth $28 billion. Now, she doesn't own them. She can live within the Crown estates, do whatever she wants to within the Crown estates, but she doesn't own the state. The British people own them. So, Buckingham Palace is worth $5 billion. She does not own it. This is owned by the people. And I hate to be in there and have to clean this. There's 52 bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, 78 bathrooms. That doesn't seem like an awful lot of bathrooms, does it?
not for that many people.
Yeah, 19 staterooms, a post office, a cinema, a swimming pool, a doctor's office, and a jeweler's workshop. So it's huge. Buckingham Palace is absolutely huge. And it's only been the royal residence since the early 1800s. Balmoral is worth $140 million, and she does own this. Prince Albert had purchased this for Queen Victoria, and this is in the family. If you remember, I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday, we talked about, or Monday or Wednesday, we talked about Edward, when after he had abdicated, his brother George became king and gave him £10,000 a year. And the reason was because Edward actually had a say in Balmoral. He, being part of the family, he actually could have claimed to have owned it. And so they paid him off so that George would have total ownership of Balmoral. Windsor Castle is worth $235 million. She doesn't own it at all.
Who does?
Go ahead.
Bruce.
The British people.
The British, yeah.
British people. Sandringham House worth $65 million, and this is owned by her. This is where her father loved this place. This is where he died, and it's where she most often stays. That or Windsor are our two favorite castles. Pardon?
She did not own Windsor Castle, is that what you said?
Yeah, she does not.
Wasn't that the castle that burned so badly here a few years back?
Yes,
Who paid for the repair?
it was a shared payment. She helped pay for the replacement.
Oh, okay.
Although it was owned by the British people, she did help pay for it.
I just
It was millions of dollars.
Yes, it was, what I read.
Hillsborough Castle was worth $65 million. She doesn't live, or she doesn't own this. This is her residence in Ireland, and it's not really a castle. It's really just a country house.
Right.
Yeah, it's like all of you, I'm sure, have in a country house.
I wonder about it, just like.
Holyrood is worth $100 million. She doesn't own this, and this is up in Scotland. And yeah, it's in Edinburgh, Scotland. And this is where Mary Queen of Scots lived originally. And I visited right after I graduated from college. I visited England. It was my graduation gift from my parents. And I went to Holyrood. It was open at that time. The Royal Art Collections were $13 billion. She does own part of it, but most of it is owned by the nation, by the people. And it's the largest private art collection in the world. They've collected this over and over and over again. Many years. Crown jewels are worth $3 billion. Of course, she doesn't own those. They are also owned by the state, and they're in the house, or excuse me, in the Tower of London. A day with the Queen. What's it like if you were having to be Queen? What would your day look like? Well, at 7:30, a maid knocks on the door, and she brings in a pot of Earl Grey tea and a few biscuits for her to eat. Do any of you drink Earl Grey?
My husband used to.
Yeah, I love Earl Grey. Earl Grey's my favorite. And if you don't know Earl Grey, buy some. And they make it here, it's very readily available. Earl Grey's delicious tea. And then, at 8 o'clock, the maid runs her morning bath. Now, if she's on a train, which she often was, traveling, there's a rule that at 8 o'clock, you can't go over bumpy tracks while she's taking her bath.
She has a bathtub on the train.
Pardon?
She has a bathtub on the train.
Oh, yeah. Her train is gorgeous. It is really well fitted out. Then after the bath, one of her 3 dressers come in, and they pick out the outfit for the day. Now, they have selected 3 or 4 different outfits, and she says what she will wear for the beginning of the day. And she says, I have to be seen to be believed. So she has tended to wear very bright colors. You'll see that in a minute. Her work uniform is in a below-the-dress, knee dress, which has weights in it so that if the wind comes, it won't blow up. That's good. You won't want to see, anything you shouldn't see. And she usually wears a triple strand of pearls and earrings and a brooch. And every picture you're going to see, she has a brooch on. And usually a monotone coat. She's 5'4", but she's shorter than that now, because as she's aged. And she has 10,000 outfits.
Oh my God.
Now, I have a question. Could you fit 10,000 outfits in your wardrobe here?
Yeah, when you have this mouth.
10,000 outfits. She wears the colors of the rainbow. She loves it. She says, if she wore beige, nobody would know who I am. She got that idea from her mother. When George, her father, George VI, and her mother, Queen Elizabeth, went out during the bombing of London, her mother always wore bright colors because it slowed awe around her, and her mother was very short also. And so they needed to be able to see the king and queen. And so she wore bright colors for that purpose, and that's exactly why she wears bright colors. Her favorite color, though, is blue. A fashion designer said, the queen dresses all matching. No one else dresses all in pink without looking hilarious. But she does, and she pulls it off. And she has people who dress her and who know how to put it together. She wears sensible patent leather shoes. They cost, is it $1,200 or $1,300? $1,300 for shoes. Again, I suppose that's about what you're paying for your shoes.
Oh, yeah.
During the day, she wears loafers, and as you can see there, that's exactly what she's wearing. At night, she wears a heel, which is no more than 2.5 inches high, so it's about that high. And so she's very sensible about her shoes. I thought this was funny. Angela Kelly, who's her personal assistant, has a special job. She breaks in all the queen's shoes for her. You don't want her to get blisters. And so she'll wear them for a few days until they are broken in. They both wear size 6. And the queen has owned 5,000 different hats, but she does repeat them 20 or 30 times. She loves hats, and she does occasionally repeat them. Okay, so back now to her day. Remember, we were at 8 o'clock, she was taking her bath, and she was getting dressed. Okay, so at 8:15, She has a simple breakfast of cornflakes, and she loves Kellogg's cornflakes and milk, and sometimes toast with orange marmalade, and she has it in the formal dining room. When Philip was alive, they didn't eat breakfast together. He either got up earlier and ate, or was away, so they didn't have breakfast together. And then the Piper of the Sovereign comes and plays for 15 minutes, and it doesn't matter which house they're at, whether they're at Buckingham Palace or anything, he goes and travels with her. And she usually watches from one of the windows, and then at the end, he turns to her and he nods and she nods. They don't wave at each other. And I thought this was funny. At night, one of his responsibilities is to decide what he's going to play. He cannot play the same tune for 6 weeks. So now think about that. He has to play 15 minutes a day, every day, and he can't play the same thing, repeat it until 6 weeks later. So he has to be very skilled with that.
Very good.
At 9:15, she goes to her desk and answers her mail. She gets about 300 letters a day. It's very regulated as to how many she actually reads. But she does read some, and then does answer some. Then she gets what's called the red box. These are all the government papers. These are very secret. Only the Queen reads what's in the red box. She gets these every day except for Christmas. And she has to put her stamp of approval on the red box, the papers in the red box. She has to write Elizabeth R. In them to show that she has read them and that she agrees with them. Since 1952, she's given the assent to over 3,500 parliamentary acts. She's not refused any, by the way. There are 2 inkwells. If it's a formal paper, she signs it in black. If it's a personal letter, she signs it in green. And then she holds at 11 o'clock private meetings of people. They only last 20 minutes. And they're very timed. You go in, you talk, and 20 minutes later you're escorted out and the next people come in. It's a very regulated time. 12:30, she takes the dogs for a walk, and then she has lunch. She's given a list of all the food for the week, and if she doesn't want it, she crosses it out. These are the things she does not like. She doesn't like spaghetti, too messy. She might, do one of those 10,000 dresses she has. Garlic, onions, ketchup, curry, and shellfish, and absolutely no blackberries or raspberries because they get stuck on her teeth. So whatever she has, she doesn't have any of those. Her favorite dessert is chocolate perfection pie. Now, I was going to make this for you. I was determined to make this. And I looked at the recipe, and the recipe takes over 4 hours to make.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and it's so complicated. So guess what? I gave up on that. I'm not getting charged for that.
That's okay.
You can actually go online and find it. It looks good. And then at 2 o'clock, she undertakes her outside appointments. If it's outside of London, she might take a train or a helicopter. And wait till you see how I can transfer this. I was happy with this. And 3 times a year, she holds her garden parties in the afternoon. 6,000 guests, all personally invited by the Queen to Buckingham Palace. And at 4 o'clock, they form up these lines for her to walk through. And she'll stop and greet certain people along the way. The refreshment tents have 27,000 cups of tea, 20,000 sandwiches, and 20,000 slices of cake. That's how much, for these 6,000 people. People do often want to hand her stuff, gifts, and she is allowed to accept them if the gift is not over worth $200, and it has to be not wrapped. Why doesn't it have to be wrapped?
Assassination.
It's a security reason.
Yeah.
Very reason.
5 o'clock, it's tea time,
IT.
and if any of her family is going to visit her, they have to tell her ahead of time. You can't just pop in on the Queen. She always has it in her Earl Grey tea. Salmon sandwiches, cucumber sandwiches, ham and mustard, egg, mayonnaise, and scones. Very, very traditional.
It's a lot.
And her favorite? Jam pennies. And they're just simply a cookie that's been cut in a circle and has strawberry or raspberry jam put on it. And by the way, the raspberry jam has to be filtered out so she doesn't get any seeds in it. Right.
Wow.
Now, here is a good question. I've been waiting to ask you this all day. Why would these tea sandwiches never be served to Elizabeth? They are cucumber. They're cucumber sandwiches.
Yes.
Why would they never be served? Now, you can get this when you're good.
It would make her belch.
Now, I knew somebody would have a good answer to that. No. She loves cucumber sandwiches. That's nothing she really.
Seeds or allergies?
I love them.
Now, see, it's because their corners are not round.
Oh.
A pointed edge food means an overthrow of the throne. And so you have to round out all the corners.
So what about pie with that little corner in the pie?
I don't know how they deal with that.
Okay, just wondering. Pizza.
I don't know. At least sandwiches have to be that way.
Yeah.
Wednesday at 6:30, she always meets with the Prime Minister to see what's going on. At 7 o'clock, she reviews what Parliament has done for the day. And this is also, at 7 and 8 o'clock, she now hosts formal dinners, if there's going to be a formal dinner. And there are about 150 to 170 guests sitting in that U-shaped table. It's in the ballroom, actually. If there is not a formal dinner, then she will have a private meal, usually without any carbs in it. She doesn't like that. And a very simple dessert, usually some fruit. And a lot of times it's homegrown from her Castle Windsor. And then she watches her favorite TV shows. Coronation Street, EastEnders, Emmerdale, and Downton Abbey. At 10:30, she goes through the dispatch boxes one more time. She has written a page in her diary every day that she's been queen. And she took that from Queen Victoria. And then she goes to bed for the night. Christmas. Queen Charlotte, who was George III's wife, she brought actually the first Christmas tree. She was German. But in 1848, the Illustrated London News showed that picture of Victoria and Albert Street, and Christmas trees then became very popular. At Windsor, that tree has 20,000 lights. Isn't that beautiful? And then at Buckingham Palace, they always have 3 trees. She sends 750 cards, and she's given about 90,000 Christmas puddings to her servants over the whole reign. She had usually spent her time at Windsor. That's the tree at Windsor. But most recently, she's gone to Sandringham. And if it's at Sandringham, the royal princess joined with the household and the community, and they have a charity fundraiser in the morning, playing soccer. In the afternoon at 4 o'clock, Prince Albert had established this custom. The kids put the last ornaments on the tree, and they give gifts. Now, because what do you give the Queen for Christmas? They now give silly ones, and so, like a leather toilet seat for Charles was one. Before he was married to Meghan, he got a grow your own girlfriend kit, and Harry gave her a shower cap that said, "Ain't life a..." So they're all fun gifts. That evening, they have a black tie dinner. And no one's allowed to go to bed until she does. And normally, you know, she goes to bed around 11. She always loves to stay up at least till midnight on this day. Next day, the Christmas breakfast. The men have the full English breakfast. The women tend to stay in their rooms and have fruit, light cereal, tea, and that. They then go to church. It's about 17-minute walk. People line the walk to see him go to that. And there she is. They have, by the way, they have not done that since COVID.
Oh,
Those are pictures beforehand. 1 o'clock, they hold a dinner in the main dining room, and they enter by seniority. So she would be in first, for instance. And that's the menu for Christmas dinner.
French, yes.
Yeah. And very typical. That's the way that they've always done it. That's one of the main courses. And she loves the old-fashioned crackers where you break them apart and you get a prize. Do any of you still have crackers?
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We have it every once in a while at our dinner.
yeah. We do crackers, and my grandson Carter, he pops them all open. He loves boom sound. And her favorite prize is a penny whistle. That's what a penny whistle is. Then after they've eaten their lunch, or actually dinner, they have to, before and afterwards, get weighed. That's because her great-great-grandfather, Edward VII, has said everybody should have a good time and be well fed. And so you may want to make sure that you were well fed during it. The annual Christmas message is in the afternoon. Her grandfather, George, gave the first one. BBC had begged him, he did not want to do this, but he finally gave in and gave it. She gave her first one in 1953, and then in 1957 it was televised. It wasn't on the radio any longer. And one year when, it's never live, it's always pre-filmed. And they were filming it, and there were birds outside chirping, and she got laughing, she couldn't stop laughing. And so they had to retake the whole message again, which is very unusual for her. This is this year's picture. She doesn't like to see herself, and so she always takes her dogs out for a walk during that time. Then they have a lighter supper, they play games, and she loves Scrabble. Now, what happened this year? Due to the increase in the COVID, she decided to forgo Sandringham. She stayed at Windsor for Christmas, and the family did too. Only a few of them showed up for us. Her annual Christmas message was pre-taped, but it was really symbolic this time. That was what she looked like. And if any of you get BritBox, and I don't, probably it's online other places, but actually on Christmas Day I watched the message. And that was the pre-taped one. It was done in the Windsor White Drawing Room, and that's where she and Philip had their 70th anniversary photo taken. There it is. And the chrysanthemum, the sapphire chrysanthemum platinum brooch was the one she wore on her honeymoon. Okay, so now, you see the brooch? Okay, now here is her and Philip. I think it's really sentimental. And then it's also the one that she wore for the diamond wedding, the 50th anniversary. Or, excuse me, the 60th. Okay, now look at that picture. You see the brooch again? And rather than a lot of family photos, which she had done the previous year, those are her grandchildren, she only had one, and notice it's that one, the one I just showed you of her and Phil. And at the end of the speech, they sang "O Little Town," a choir sang "O Little Town of Bethlehem." You know, very rousing rendition. It's not the way we hear it. It's not "O Little Town of Bethlehem." a British thing to a different tune. Right. And this was her latest photograph. I wanted to check to make sure I had, this is what the one was just a week ago. And you know, she has COVID now. You can see she doesn't look very well. Okay, this is what everybody's come for, I know, the big question. What does she have in that purse? Okay, here it is. She carries these bags, either soft calf, lizard, ostrich, or alligator. It costs $2,000. And she has 300 of them. Which she likes 30 or 40. She likes them to match whatever she's wearing. But that's her favorite style right there, the black one. Okay. See, she likes this one. Are you ready? A lot of you try to guess what was in there. There she's rooting around in it. And you know, there was a lot of thought that there was nothing in it, actually. But one of her dressers retired and said exactly what's in there. A small silk handkerchief, her Parker 51 pen, a leather suede glass case for her glasses, Elizabeth Arden red lipstick, Clarence hand cream, Benedict's mint fondant covered in bitter dark chocolate, a 5-pound note on Sundays for the church collection. Boy, isn't she wow to give me that collection. Corgi treats, and a crossword puzzle. She gets bored. So that's what's in the purse. And it is checked every day. But there's a purpose for the purse. When she places it on the table, it means she wants to leave in 5 minutes. And if she puts it on the floor, it means she's not enjoying who she's talking with, and the lady in waiting has to come over and rescue her. So, this is a great clue from Elizabeth, there, ladies. Carry a purse wherever you go, and you can now determine how long you have to talk to a person. And that's it. Okay, let me get the seat of mine. Okay, comments and questions, yes?
Does she write her own messages that she does?
No, she does not. Whenever she has to give a message, like the Christmas message,